Hey everybody, this is a situational awareness from Small Town Underground, and I've been doing a little bit of research on this. And before we start, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now it's about data centers, it's about artificial intelligence, kind of where we are at, how did we get here? And again, before we go any further, this is not some sort of a pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro-government, anti-government, pro-AI, anti-AI. It's just questions that I've had for a while. And, a lot of people talk about, oh, we shouldn't use AI. We shouldn't use AI. And my answer to that is very simple. I did not ask for artificial intelligence. I didn't ask for these AI chat bots any more than I asked for a cell phone or a computer or anything. I wouldn't call them natural evolutions of life. But what I will say is that this is what we have now. And we can be against AI and technology and all these things, but without what we have, we wouldn't be here on the computer being able to talk like this, right? Without Facebook and without YouTube and being able to upload videos and all this technology around us. So uh, I'm not a preacher of not using this stuff. It's not like we asked for it. And I think I can convince you in the video that it may be up in our best interest to learn how to use some of this stuff because it's going to be used against us. So we just happen to be alive, be here in this day and age, and it is what it is. So um, even if you never touch it, it's going to be here and it's going to advance itself. And it's going to be forced upon us in the future. So, what kind of world do we want to live in? What kind of world are we willing to compromise with? I don't know. But I think that right now AI is a great tool because you're not trying to get, I don't try to get it to tell me the truth or what I want to hear. I ask it questions because I want to know facts that happen, right? And from what I can tell, if you use a couple of different AIs, you can kind of fact check each other, bounce it off of each one. And so, generally speaking, how it aggregates information and everything, if you're just asking it questions like, what was the temperature last week? It's going to tell you the truth. It's going to tell you it was 78 degrees. Now, obviously it's going to tell you the spin. And a lot of times I will put in things like, what are the pros? What do people say is the pros? What do people say are the cons? Because it's just like any other information you got to disseminate and discern. And so, again, I want to kind of go back and show you a little bit about where this stuff comes from, how it's all connected, and what kind of world is being made before us. And again, this is not really political, so you can make what you want out of it. I know that, everybody wants to pick sides and choose things, but we're just focusing on the truth here, all right? Or what we know, what we can find out. And so I watched this video from a YouTube channel called More Perfect Union. And I don't even know how they lean, to be honest with you. I don't know which way's which, but I've seen quite a bit of their videos, and it feels sort of liberally to me. But at the same time, we're focusing on the information. We're beyond this uniparty thinking that we've been kind of corralled in. We're just focusing on what is what. So if you're not interested in this, please, by all means, turn it off, move to the next thing. But I find it fascinating. I've known about data centers for a long time, and this is going to be the fight of our lives, right? The data center issue. So this video, we're going to go through, and then I'm going to show you some conversations that I had, just asking some simple questions about where we're at, and try to think of it as not as like a specific person like Donald Trump, right? We're not here to talk about Donald Trump, the person. What we're looking at is where are we at in this time? What's the groundwork that's been laid out? So I believe what I'm going to do, and this video is about 14 minutes long. We're probably going to go through the whole thing. I may pause it, but it's important to get to the conversation that I want to show you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pull that up now, and then let me make myself a little smaller so we can kind of break this down and disseminate. Again, this video is from More Perfect Union. It just came out a few days ago, and we're going to go through it. So here we go.
I have been researching one of the weirdest stories that I've ever looked into. It's about a once fringe movement among the tech elite that aims to replace governments entirely with corporations. Privatized societies run by CEOs, built for profit, not for people.
Now, I'm going to pause it really quickly there because, again, privatized cities, well, what have we been hearing more and more and more about is these 15-minute cities, these small structured cities that you will not want to drive cars, you will own nothing and be happy. You'll be able to get all of your job, your amenities right there in town. You're being corralled in these cities, right? So that kind of struck me. So here we go.
Almost like they wanted their own little worlds, playlands, built just for them based on their desires. I eventually pulled away from the story because it seemed a little more silly than anything to be concerned about. But then I realized they might already be getting their way. Just look at Doge and Palantir replacing or breaking the basics of the government. The plans for a futuristic, privatized new Gaza. AI infrastructure growth that seems immune to public opinion, and invasions of countries seemingly at random.
A new power structure in society that will overcome the existing democratic power structures. When billionaires suddenly have a tremendous amount of power and democracy has been proven to be exceedingly vulnerable.
So I decided to dig back in. What is this movement? Where did it come from? How did the people involved get so powerful? Where is it going? And importantly, what can we do to stop it?
Now, if you notice really quickly, they're showing flock cameras, they're showing data centers, tech AI. We've been hearing from the World Economic Forum for years now about societies that will be tightly controlled, pandemics of, artificial intelligence. Now, when we're here with all these things and moving at a very rapid rate, if you're a tech billionaire, why would you not want that control, right? Peter Thiel and Sam Altman and these people, they're in these secret societies. They talk about how, the lectures on the Antichrist, of course, no videos for that. Some really, really weird stuff. If you were a tech billionaire and you had the opportunity to control civilization, why wouldn't you, right? So that's kind of where this is going. And you're going to put it in context of like where these people's minds are at. This also, the network states of America, talk about corporate welfare, the corporation, the states of America, privatized government. It's pretty crazy.
Let's go back to the weird origins of all this. In 2008, Peter Thiel first got involved in philanthropy, if you can call it that. He opened the Thiel Foundation, a
2008, 2009, the housing market bubble. BlackRock was born and created during this entire time. Peter Thiel Foundation, philanthropy. See how all this stuff is connected.
Profit that invested in building the world Peter Thiel believed in. And one big investment sticks out. The Seasteading Institute. The Seasteading Institute was started by Patry Friedman, the grandson of Milton Friedman, the famous economist who gave politicians the academic backing to rip off the global working class.
Milton Friedman, if you don't know who that is, you need to look him up. A very integral part of advertising in the 50s, and just some crazy, crazy stuff. There's a crazy story about his life and how he changed advertising in America. And of course, this is his kin that's involved with Peter Thiel here. It's just, the connections are insane.
The goal of TSI was to build self-sustaining societies at sea, ruled by new governments on newly constructed land. This was particularly appealing to libertarians who wanted to escape the constraints of modern governance.
And I like what he says there, because it makes sense. People that want to get away and have their own government because society is so messed up. I mean, the Amish seem to have gotten it right, right? But this idea went back a long time ago. You can see the correlation between this and what the kind of future plans they have for 15-minute cities. So
the question of whether seasteading is desirable or possible, in my mind, is not even relevant. It is absolutely necessary.
Peter Thiel provided the seed money for this project and set up TSI with some office space in a conference room in the Palantir office. He also hooked Friedman up with one of the co-founders, Joe Lonsdale.
We're the guys who create institutions that are changing the world, and we've changed a lot of industries so far here in Silicon Valley, but we haven't been able to change the government. That's a pretty hard one.
Silicon Valley changing the government is exactly what Thiel wanted.
I spoke with one of the people who's been following the rise of this movement better than anyone else, Gil Duran.
Now, hold on a second. Peter Thiel wanting to change the government. Now, I like J.D. Vance. I like J.D. Vance. But guess what? J.D. Vance was the protege of Peter Thiel from Palantir, who is now our vice president of the United States of America. And Peter Thiel wanted to change the government. So you understand this multi-layered 10-step ahead plan that we're involved in now. And I have an interesting theory for it I'll share. But again, can you see the correlations here?
Journalist and author of The Nerd Reich, to get a better understanding of the philosophy behind all of this.
There's a long history of people seeking to escape democratic societies or else to bring back monarchy or authoritarianism. In 1997, there was a book that came out called The Sovereign Individual. It argued that in the 21st century, two technologies would result basically in the overthrow of democracy and the demise of nations like the United States. Cyber currency, which we would call crypto today, and the other one was advanced automation that would create a world without jobs, and that wealthy individuals who were savvy investors could profit from this coming doom and prepare for it by making the right investments. This book had a major impact on Peter Thiel.
And of course,
Kind of sounds familiar what we're in now. A lot of people are talking about Trump, making all these investments. Well, what is he investing in? Cryptocurrency. Now, whether I'm not here to talk about that, because whether he's not personally investing in them or not is one thing, right? You can go through pump and dumps, you can go through all this stuff, we can point fingers, but my point is that's cryptocurrency, right? And what are we having thrust upon us right now is the artificial intelligence revolution, right? ChatGPT, Grok, all these things are going on right now. And it was written in a book several years ago that Peter Thiel, and we're not even picking on Peter Thiel, but again, connect the dots here, all right?
Influenced the people Thiel was paying. Joe Lonsdale got to work. He started a nonprofit, California Common Sense, allegedly dedicated to transparency in government spending, so that voters could make a difference if they found things they were unhappy with. On the surface, that sounds great, but two founders of that nonprofit started a for-profit, OpenGov. OpenGov is a software service for government agencies to manage data. The idea of replacing democratic processes in the hands of all of us with technology in the hands of few was becoming less fringe, and other nonprofits with similar goals started popping up. But while the idea of using technology to make a decentralized country had some illustrious backers in the mid-2010s,
I'm going to leverage technology to create a new country. And yes, I did say country, not company.
Now, who is that? That is Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime lover, trafficker, whatever you want to call it. So again, you see the connections here. She's talking about this. You can go back, now you don't even look at the Epstein files, and go back in her history to her father, who we've talked about on the show, who actually owned the rights to the school books that we grew up with and that we learned our history from. And even she is here talking about new countries, this whole thing, Palantir, it's all converged into one. And yes, this is real. You can't make this stuff up.
it never really materialized on a serious level. But the think tanks would herald a few successful versions of their privatization plan. Like Sandy Springs, Georgia, famously the first city in America to privatize nearly all government services. It was the darling of the libertarian press. Everything for profit, nothing public, and a consulting firm making a little cash off the taxpayers at every juncture. Those extra taxes for corporate profit started adding up, though. Eventually, Sandy Springs unprivatized, saving taxpayers millions of dollars a year.
Now, I find this very interesting that they even brought up Sandy Springs, Georgia as one of the testing grounds, because we know a little bit about this, and I'm not going to go into any detail tonight because I wasn't prepared for it. But it's something that I may do in an upcoming situational awareness to look at the Sandy Springs, Georgia in and of itself to see how they did this, because I know that they had planned this for a long time. They created a charter. They basically privatized everything, just like the plans that they're talking about here. And furthermore, I've even heard this kind of talk being talked about in my own commissioner's office, especially when they took the control this last cycle about privatizing a lot of our local government. Now, again, connect the dots, because this stuff isn't just thought out of thin air. This stuff is being taught and being shared and being kind of institutionalized, right? Through our development authorities and all of these NGOs and these bureaucratic side, development authorities. All of these ideas are coming together from a much higher place. And this is laying it out. And again, the state of Georgia is ground zero for World Economic Forum activity. So why wouldn't they have tried in a town here in Sandy Springs that ended up failing? And we'll cover that later. But here we go.
There are also nascent communities focused on Christian values that the network state media heralds.
Battleground Washington, where a data center billionaire is buying up all the property to own the town, the mayor is on his payroll, and Highland Rim, a series of developments in Appalachia run by the investment firm New Founding. And that's not even including the California Forever Project, a proposed tech city in Solano County funded by Mark Andreessen, Reid Hoffman, Sam Altman, and other billionaires.
Okay, so you see all these people are connected. And in and of itself, this is not a criminal idea. We talk about it all the time about breakaway civilizations, right? That's what they talk about, breakaway civilization. We know all these billionaires that have these contingency plans, and they're building these huge bunkers. We know all about Mark Zuckerberg's bunker, like what, a $30-40 million bunker. All these people have the contingency plans of breakaway civilization, and that's the ideas they're doing here. It's not a criminal idea in and itself, because we talk about these things all the time, right? But it's more and more be mindful that society is sort of doomed. I mean, everybody thinks that this thing is going to fail, It's just crazy to me.
But what if this was never really about these little mini governments? Here's Peter Thiel saying the quiet part out loud in 2010.
Technology is this incredible alternative to politics. And the task in this world where politics has become so broken and so dysfunctional is to find a way to escape from it.
Tech instead of politics. We already had Doge and Palantir becoming the operating system of the United States.
Now, what is he referring to there? That's a conspiracy that Elon Musk was put into place for Doge so that they could upload the Palantir software into the government. That's not my conspiracy theory. However, the more that we kind of crack this open, the more it kind of seems like that's what it was. Doge was just sort of a huge failure in our presidency last year in our society, where we basically broke up USAID, and we supposedly were going to Doge our government, but then Elon Musk and Trump got in this big fight, and then it breaks apart. And then, of course, all the states were going to do Doge. We had the red tape rollback. We had all these things. It all completely fell apart. We've saved pretty much zero money, right? Because we still are battling. We're paying Afghanistan or these Middle Eastern terrorist organizations money every month. We're getting ready to merge our military with a foreign nation. So I mean, like, we've not done anything in this area. It's pretty crazy to me. So it looks to me more and more like the conspiracy theory that the Doge was just a cover just to get the technology that they needed in the government could very well be true. Think about it. So anyway,
with a stated goal of being more powerful than the government's using it.
How can we help the government stop the bad guys while also putting systems in place to make sure nobody within the government was doing anything inappropriate? So you have to have systems that watch the watchers.
After leaving Palantir, Lonsdale, through his firm 8VC, continued investments in what's called GovTech, tech for government clients. That's surveillance tech, AI drones, AI weapons, even tech to replace 911 with AI.
See all that? Now, also, replace 911 with AI. That's the whole point. Like, our county is, I think most counties in Georgia, and the state government's even talked about it before, about how they're going to sort of turn 911 into an AI program where you call 911. So, like, you understand all of these things. You got Palantir flock cameras. You're talking about drone warfare. The military is using drone warfare. Look, I mean, you see where all of these things are connected, and they're coming from the top down all over us. Like we're gonna turn 911 into AI, and that's an actual plan, and that's what's going to happen.
All aim to replace, privatize, and profit from tasks normally attributed to democratically accountable officials.
What's happening now, though, is that the companies are becoming more powerful than the governments they serve. We suddenly have all these billionaire oligarchs spending so much money,
Corporate
they
government.
were able to actually capture the federal government with Trump. So it's this interesting moment now where we're getting a glimpse of what government by technology company would look like.
And Lonsdale is working to convince you that we need this by making you scared. Lonsdale founded the
Fear.
Cicero Institute, a think tank that pushes anti-homeless messaging. Not anti-homelessness messaging, but messaging attacking the homeless themselves. And even legislation creating concentration camps where unhoused people would do forced labor.
Now
You
listen to
actually
this.
can go into states. You can partner with governors. You can pass laws. Cicero's in 15 states. We're getting dozens of laws passed. And then we're going to teach people that and go to the national level.
Riling people up is definitely part of their game.
Now, did you hear what he said? They're in 15 states. They're making the laws. So we on the ground, what do we complain about most? We complain that we can't get laws passed. We can't get bills passed. We, the people, try to bring this kind of stuff up. But this guy's in 15 states talking about concentration camps for homeless people. And he's just saying it nonchalantly. You just heard him. But they're talking about how they write the laws, they get the laws passed, they partner with governors, they do all of these things. We have zero power and control over our own government because these guys are the ones that's making the laws. So,
Game plan. That's what we saw in the San Francisco recalls. San Francisco had a spike in crime during the pandemic, but so did almost every big city in the United States. Only in San Francisco, which has extremely low crime rates compared to most cities in red states, did they create this massive panic using social media and doom influencers to convince everybody that everything was worse than it had ever been.
And as
now,
Lonsdale
just one thing I'll say about that. I don't know about Sacramento. I've been to California. I have family out in California. I love my family. There's a lot of conservatives in California, but LA, and I went back 20 years ago, it looked like a dumpster fire. I don't know what San Francisco's like. I've had friends that's been to San Francisco. I've got family that lives in San Francisco. They say that it's not that bad, but I do remember exactly what they're talking about because we were gaslit over and over again with the homelessness in San Francisco and all this stuff. And all I'm saying is if you've got a company that's directly advertising homelessness for the sake of homelessness, like riling us up with all these videos that we see, which could be a very minute part of the population, they're using fear tactics, just like the people now talking about data centers saying that, well, it's Chinese influence, that we're all a bunch of bots, that it's not real. Talking about, it's the military, we got to catch up with China, we got to do all of these things. These tactics are fear tactics. They're fear tactics that make you think that we need this stuff, and it's happening all around us.
got into nonprofits and think tanks, Patrice Friedman, remember him, Milton Friedman's grandson, started his own VC firm with backing from Peter Thiel, called Pronomos Capital, existing entirely for investing in privatized governments.
Investing in privatized government. So what's fixing to get into that? Notice how all of these people have different umbrella corporations. They can just leave one and start one, just like we're seeing with the fraud, waste, and abuse, the NGOs, all these multi-layered LLCs that transfer money from here to there and everywhere else. I mean, it's the same playbook. They just take this money and shuffle it around and create these other corporations so that these umbrella shell corporations, they can just continue this stuff and keep us all confused.
In Honduras, Pronomos invested in the first government run entirely by a for-profit corporation, Prospera.
Prospera is this little enclave on the island of Roatan in Honduras that claims to be its own little charter city that was funded by American venture capitalists and has been touted as the flagship project of the network state movement.
But the real flagship project is something bigger: the entire United States government. It shows in policy. Remember the whole thing about taking over Greenland? That idea emerged and was celebrated by the people we've been talking about.
I think having a frontier is very healthy. I think part of America being great is that it's growing and creating more wealth for everyone. If the people in Greenland want to be part of us, if we can use those resources better and make sure Russia and China don't get advantages in the Arctic.
The Freedom City as a name didn't really gain momentum. but the idea is there. And the influence in the administration is clear. Joe Lonsdale helped staff up the Trump administration, and just recently accompanied administration officials to the Philippines to christen a new regulatory zone.
Just last week, we signed a historic deal with the Philippines, 4,000 acres, right next to Subic Bay, where we're gonna build a first of its kind AI native industrial park.
But I was there for a day in the Philippines with everyone. They're excited what you guys are doing.
That sounds a lot like a startup city.
Okay, again, I don't know where your politics lay in all this, but the groundwork is being laid for 15-minute cities, and they're doing it all over the world. They're buying up these areas, and they're putting these testing sites out. And it's not that they haven't done it in America. You know, Disney has one. I can't remember. It's called Celebration. It's a very, very weird, eerie place. But for all of these people have been working on this stuff for years. Now, you're talking about multi-billion-dollar tech giants and corporate, bureaucrats have been pouring money into all this stuff. Now, do you think that they're going to pour all this money into everything and not expect a return or not expect to do what they're going to do? But they have your best interests, all right? They have your best interests at heart here. But again, do you think that all these people that we're seeing being connected, they're doing this? This is the future here that they're planning for you.
They've also embedded themselves with the rest of the right-wing movement.
I could not have envisioned that J.D. Vance, a Peter Thiel protege, would be the vice president of the United States. And so when Vance got onto the ticket, then it became real that this stuff could travel to the White House.
Now, let's talk about J.D. Vance for a second, because like I said earlier, I like J.D. Vance, right? I'm just a spectator in all this, but I did find it very kind of crazy that out of all of the nominees that we went through, and you gotta put your memory cap on, J.D. Vance come out of nowhere. Okay? And the movie, we watched the movie, was it Hillbilly Elegy or Effigy or whatever? He wrote a book, and I thought the movie was all right, but it was directed by Ron Howard, and it had a star-studded cast, and it just come out of nowhere. And when you put all this stuff into context and know that J.D. Vance is now our vice president, it's like, what kind of steps were they ahead where they decided we're going to write a book, then we're going to make this movie about him, and then all of a sudden J.D. Vance, and nobody trusted J.D. Vance in the beginning, but he was saying all the right things, and then he ended up becoming the vice president, which he is now, and here we are connecting the dots to all of these tech giants, these tech oligarchs, and we're looking at all the history of all these things and how. And now it's like the Republican conservative movement owns all of this. Like, we own this stuff. Like, we can't talk bad about it because it's J.D. Vance. And now, which I have a theory on that, but here we are. And I just want to point this out. Like, would we even trust what is going on here? But this is very interesting to me.
In September 2024, there was a conference at Fort Mason in San Francisco called Reboot 2024. And its website announced that we were now in a new reality and that Silicon Valley was waking up and about to become this powerful force in politics. And the guest speaker was Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation, who is the guy who had shepherded Project 2025. So here you had tech VCs in San Francisco and Kevin Roberts in the same venue proclaiming the new reality. And the new reality is where we are today.
Okay, so go back and put your thinking caps on. Remember the Heritage Project 2025 and how big of a deal the Democrats made out of it, like it was some Trump plan, blah, blah, yada, yada. And I don't believe it was a Trump plan, but again, look at everything around Trump and how this has all kind of encompassed him, encircled him, all of these people. And Peter Thiel continuing to come up and up and up and again. And it's like, wow. You look at all this stuff. So you had the Heritage Foundation in there with Palantir and all of these things. We were getting gaslit every other day by the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025. And now they're talking about the new reality, right? What do we always joke about? We always laugh about this clown show like, oh man, we're in an alternate reality, like, oh, the upside down world. Well, they were literally having conferences about this stuff being like, we are in a new reality. And I believe them. We're in a new reality.
And that's showing in actual policy, like the administration's quietly announced plans for maritime prosperity zones, districts on American soil with fewer regulations for corporations to build ships and reinvigorate the industrial base. Then there's the New American Industrial Alliance, a tech industry interest group, pushing for unrestricted data center growth.
Now,
They were listed as co-sponsors of the Blueprint for America.
so acceleration zones, we're about to get into that, but look, pushing for new regulations on data centers. So I want you to, we'll round back up with that. But again, this stuff has been planned from the very beginning. I mean, it's just crazy when you see all this. Okay.
Lobbying for prosperity zones on American soil, a plan to sell federal and public land to private companies to build low-regulation, low-tax havens for progress.
And not even mention Okefenokee being taken over by UNESCO. I mean, like what? And we've already heard Trump talk about deregulating federal land and all these things. Like, this is some crazy stuff here.
Their co-sponsor on the blueprint was the company behind Prospera in Honduras, whose lobbying disclosures show they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars pushing for prosperity zones. But they also spent big on begging the American government for handouts of your money. They've lobbied on refunding the U.S. International Development Financial Corporation, a government organization run by Epstein associate Ben Black, that uses tax dollars to invest in American companies abroad.
Now, and also you have to remember that these data centers were lobbying the government at one point in time in the last year to subsidize their loans so that if things went south or fell through, that the taxpayers would foot the bill for these data centers. So you understand, it's just crazy when you sit down and think about all of these things and you connect all of these dots and realize it's like a 10-step plan that's been in place for a long time, and we're getting on the tail end of it.
That's privatized foreign aid, and they might finally get their way.
Black went to Honduras and promised investment in real estate and technology there, including an investment in La Ceiba, which is slated to be absorbed by Prospera.
But it's more than just government handouts. It's war crimes.
So we did a master plan, and we've developed ways to redevelop Gaza. Gaza, as President Trump's been saying, has amazing potential, and this is for the people of Gaza. We've developed it into zones.
Now, guys, Gaza. Oh, the Palestinians and Israel and all this stuff. Look, they said for a long time, we're not going to do anything with Gaza. We're going to give it back to the people. You're just seeing that they have major plans for new Gaza. Okay. And this is like scary stuff here. You know, there's a lot of conspiracies that go along with this, but was there a master plan to just take the land of Gaza over for all of this? And when you say transportation hub, there's always a conspiracy theory that they wanted to build a canal in between Gaza and do all these things. I mean, like you can go into big time rabbit hole territory, but we're just sticking to the surface here. It's crazy to think about what has happened to Gaza and what they're proposing now, as if this weren't some sort of, or the Gaza was just an accident, right? Like there wasn't some sort of plan involved here.
It was sort of insane to see it all come together in this way. But again, wherever you look these days with Trump or with these tech guys, there's always the idea of a new city that they're proposing. And it's not clear why we need these new cities. You know, Gaza should be rebuilt for the Palestinians, but these guys see it as an opportunity to take the land. And so that shows you the degree to which this thinking is starting to imbue everything that they do.
Look at how the people in this fringe movement reacted to other invasions. In 2019, Mark Lutter, leader of a Peter Thiel-funded New City think tank, said that overthrowing the Venezuelan government would be an opportunity for these projects. And when the invasion did happen, Lutter suggested America establish a Florida or Texas-style government there. He cites America paying for a wholesale development plan after regime change, which is exactly what we're doing in Iran today, to the tune of $300 billion.
Now, of course, there's some spin here. And I understand the $300 billion is frozen assets, so it's supposedly not taxpayer money, right? But again, that's subject to change, and I'm not trying to throw the ballroom up here. But again, that was supposed to be completely funded privately or whatever. Now the taxpayers are footing a bill for that, so who knows? But again, I'm not sitting here saying this is Bible. You can research every bit of this stuff. But the similarities here, the dots are just wild.
Palmer Luckey, Lonsdale and Thiel associate and founder of AI defense contractor Anduril, pictured here in cosplay, suggested a privatized city on Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, which President Trump also threatened with invasion.
Again, nobody wants this. They know that. That's why they hate populism. That's why they hate democratic representation, despite all of this being couched in freedom.
What they're asking for is to exit entirely from any government structure. But that's just not how it works, especially when most of these guys are government contractors and are still wanting to have the benefits of our society without having the responsibilities of our society.
So perhaps, is our government dysfunctional on purpose? Is part of this whole clown show the fact that we can't get anything done and we can't get anything passed because there's a directive here to make our government so bad that we give up on our government, and then we actually enable the future that we probably don't want? You see what I'm saying? Like, is this all a big psyop, that like how we constantly look at things and go, I can't believe it. It's ludicrous. It's idiocracy. It's insane. But could this be happening on purpose in order to self-destruct this system to bring about these changes? Right? Like, makes sense.
These are people who don't like being told no. They're angry at
They
the
certainly
pushback
don't like
against
being
data
told
centers, that we don't want AI to take over everything, that no one supports annihilating a civilization to replace it with one they can profit from.
People need to understand that the billionaires have become radicalized against democracy, and they're in the process of using everything they have to try to destroy it. And that's the battle of our moment. That's the battle of our time.
Now, democracy is a dirty word, but I think it's safe to say that we gave up on our constitutional republic a long time ago, and it's pretty much accepted that the democracy, or whatever you want to call it, which is insane to me. That's what they're saying, and that they're going to completely just ruin it so they can go to the next phase.
It's not too late to push back. Public response to data centers works. Many of the governance as a service startups are starting their work in towns and states, where you can still have a voice to stop them. The billionaire class wants to turn your home into their playland, completely change how everything is run to funnel more wealth to themselves, create chaos, and then when everything is all fucked up, walk away with their winnings to their own private enclaves.
What happened during COVID? The transfer of wealth.
All under the guise of fixing a broken government. A government that they broke. And yeah, sure, the government is broken, but it's not because of democracy or lack.
Create the problem for the solution.
Of corporate privatization. It's because of corporate power. We need more democracy and less corporate control.
It's pretty good. Pretty dang good. Now, again, you can make what you want of this, or you can try to say, oh, this is left-wing propaganda, blah, 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 blah. But again, I've watched this video 3 times and decided to do this. Is that important? Because we've been fighting sort of corporatocracy for years. And the dots are so well connected to all this, and it paints the picture of how structured everything really is on the inside. Yet on the outside, we see all this chaos all the time, And we talk about being in an inverted world. Well, maybe it's inverted on purpose. Maybe our government is screwing up so bad because they have to create that problem for their solution, right? And again, COVID, we saw the biggest transfer of wealth ever under the guise of COVID, right? Systematically changed everything about life that we are living in. And now we're inundated with the artificial intelligence revolution, data centers, flock cameras, you name it. All of this stuff is coming in the name of safety and security, right? Now, I have a theory. And some of you may not like this theory, but just humor me for a second. I feel like that at some point, these tech oligarchs, the 10-step ahead people, all right, no doubt Trump almost got killed. We feel many of us feel like the Trump administration has been compromised. Here we are sitting in July. And really, what do we have to show for this second administration? Now, what I think is going on here is I think that the tech industry knew that they could not do what they're doing now with a Democrat in charge. Why? Because the American populism is is huge now. And you look at the writings on the wall. We took over the media. We took over the movements. We did all of these things, and you got people like me now who is out there in the ether trying to make sense of all this. Twitter, X got sort of freed up now. It's a place you can go, even if it's the Wild West, you can still go there. Rumble against YouTube. Facebook was forced to remove all the restrictions, which is all coming back, by the way. But the bottom line is that I believe that they knew that there was no way that they could do this under a Democrat administration. They had to move forward with the Republican Donald Trump. Obviously, there's some things going on behind the scenes because he's a compromise. We have a compromised administration, whether you want to admit it or not. And what they've done, I believe, is with all of the power and the money and the influence and the foreign influence, this is a global thing. As you can see in this video, how they've started these global ventures all over the place to test them out. And they've created this artificial intelligence for all of us. So they had to do this under the Trump administration. That is why they put J.D. Vance in there. That is why all Palantir's in there. All of these people, Peter Thiel, are over all this. Even Jared Kushner over the Gaza project. All of these things that are happening that we don't want to, we pretend like that they're not really going on. But here's the guys, under a Trump administration, the emotions run so high for Donald Trump that they understood that if we did all this under a Trump administration, it would be a lot harder to talk about, right? Because if this was a Democrat or if this was just a regular Republican doing what has been going on here, people would be up in arms. This is the kind of stuff that we've been up in arms with for years, why we got to this point. And under any other administration, it would be so easy to call these things out. It would be so easy for everybody to become a unit against all of this stuff, right? But because it's happening under Donald Trump, I feel like that they're using him as the lemming for all this, because they know that the MAGA movement was so strong that if you talked about these things or if you talked against them, you'd be put in a corner, just like the division that we are seeing happening today, right? We're all so divided, and we got to hate this person, you can't say that. You say that, you're going to get kicked out of the club. But it's pretty obvious that all of this stuff was in play well before Donald Trump took his second administration. It's pretty obvious now. I even believe that the way that they could handle this was I believe that Donald Trump got talked into going back over to the Middle East, into the sandbox to, get into another war, because he was able to be convinced that this was his knight in shining armor and this was going to put his place in the history books, when it's been nothing but trouble and hardship, and it's kept Donald Trump away from the things that he ran on and put him over into this war. And it's very hard to criticize because we all love Donald Trump, right? And that's my theory. That's going on here. And I'm a spectator, and we have to just roll with what we got. But that's the way I see it. And I want everybody to understand that whether you believe it or not, whether you even care about it or not, that this is a huge, gigantic 10-step plan that's been going on for a long time, and that Donald Trump will eventually be out of the White House. We'll be dealing with another person, and all of the groundwork will be completely laid out for a wild-looking future. And if you've been into the conspiracy theories for any length of time, you understand Agenda 2030. And if you've been following the World Economic Forum, for years they've been telling you how things are going to change. And all of this goes back down to depopulation. I know you don't want to hear it, but they have to get rid of all of us useless eaters, especially the ones like me who can easily see this and point it out. So, again, the future looks bleak for humanity. It looks great for the tech oligarchs and for the privatization of America, the corporatization of the takeover of America. And they're going to do it with artificial intelligence. They're already doing it now. So my second part to this, then we'll be over, is I wanted to show you some stuff that got me thinking, and I used artificial intelligence to sort of ask some questions. Now, again, do your own research. This is not Bible or anything like that. But I feel like I just want to show you my mindset to all this stuff, because I want to go back and show you how long this has been going on. We're going to read this whole thing, but my question was, when Donald Trump took office, he had a meeting with the biggest tech giants soon after. What was that meeting about? Now, I kind of phrased that wrong because I didn't specifically say what meeting, but what it gave me was the December 14, 2016, his first in Trump Tower with the top Silicon Valley tech leaders, called the Trump Tech Summit. So this is back in 2016. And before he took office, there was a key outreach effort to mend fences after campaign tension. Now, this is also before COVID. Think about that. Apple, Tim Cook, Jeff Bezos, Satya Nadella, Larry Page, Eric Schmidt, all the Elon Musk was in there. Yada, 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 IBM, all of these tech giants were in there, and others like Peter Thiel, a Trump supporter. So, saying that was in 2016. And the goal of the meeting was to smooth over friction, build relationships, and discuss ways to collaborate on economy and innovation. He extended the olive branch. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Job creation, trade and regulation, cybersecurity. Now, we could go into a whole array of stuff, a broader economic growth and how tech could support it. So it was more like a listening session. There was a follow-up meeting in June 2017 called the American Technology Council. That one focused on modernizing federal government IT systems. Now, this is 2017. Now, notice in this video they talked about upgrading it during Doge. A lot of years passed between 2017. But what a perfect guys to do Doge and us be scratching our heads not knowing what the crap is going on, for them to have updated the system. You know, just thinking about it. And then I realized that was 2017. I said, so tell me more about the recent 2026 meeting, because the 2025 meeting was about AI dominance, investments in education. But anyway, 2026, President Trump held or announced several meetings with AI tech leaders building blah, blah, blah. March 2026, Power Pledge Roundtable. He hosted tech executives of companies like Google, Microsoft, Meta, Oracle, X, OpenAI, all of these. We remember this. Company signed a ratepayer protection pledge committed to developing their own power generations. Right now, I don't understand this, because we're having major issues about rising cost of power for data centers whenever they supposedly signed a ratepayer protection pledge. Super weird to me, but there it is. So that households wouldn't bear increased utility bills from massive energy demands of AI data centers. However, every other week you see another report on states with data centers and how they're doing rate hikes because they're having to pay for the electricity of data centers. So that doesn't make sense. This addressed tensions over surging power needs. I don't think anything's been addressed, right? June 2026 announced AI partnership meeting, and status is unclear. In June, this past month, Trump publicly announced plans for a White House meeting with leaders from all the big AI tech companies, likely including blah, 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 to discuss a partnership where the federal government, American public could benefit more directly from AI success. Okay, don't know about that, but the key elements were potential government equity stakes or profit sharing arrangements. So I don't understand that, because profit sharing means, you're trying to buy people off on the fact they're going to consume more power and water and take up agricultural land. To me, doesn't feel like a great trade-off. Like I don't have any interest in a partner sharing program with data centers, right? Companies donating shares to public wealth funds so citizens share AI returns. Like, what does that do for me if you're taking all my resources and telling me when I can turn my computer on or my air conditioner, right? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like a payoff, I don't know. Broader collaboration on AI innovation, national security, ensuring benefits flow to Americans. I don't know what benefits are going to flow here, because like the future is the benefits are going to one small spot, and the benefit of their plan would be to kill off humans, right? So, my God, what's the benefit? But anyway, the meeting hadn't been formally scheduled or invitation yet, despite Trump's comments. It appeared somewhat blindsiding to companies and may have evolved or been delayed. So, I don't even know, again, based on this, that meeting has happened, or there's just something that Trump was told to tweet, like, to make people think that he, I'm not saying that to make people think that he cares about it, because, it's an election year and everybody's super, super worried about these data centers. So maybe this is some kind of, hey, you need to release this tweet because the headline will get people and make people think, oh, yeah, they care about us. They're going to do something about us. So, But anyway, so I said, sorry, I meant 2025, the one you're referring to. 2025 dinner, this goes into a little bit more center on harnessing artificial intelligence and to maintain and expand U.S. global leadership innovation. And it was built on Trump's administration's AI action plan and efforts to boost AI education. I guess, I don't know what that means, AI education. Showcasing corporate investments in AI chip manufacturing, U.S. infrastructure, which has been talked about quite a bit. Public and private collaboration to drive AI growth, infrastructure needs, and keep the U.S. head of the global race, which it is global. Highlighting how the administration's pro-innovation policies were attracting massive private sector commitments, right? Right. Like I said, billions and billions and billions of dollars. Okay, attendees were Zuckerberg, you remember this, Tim Cook, the Satya Nadella again, Sundar Pichai, and Sergey Brin. Google, Sam Altman, the guy that I think, which one of the guys here that taught us about the Antichrist. Bill Gates was there. Wonderful Bill Gates was in the room to talk about the future of how you live with AI data centers. So, I mean, Bill Gates was allowed in that room to discuss it, right? Because why not? It's Bill Gates. Others like Oracle's, blah, yada, yada. Notable absence was Elon Musk. So, Elon Musk may end up being the rebel in all of this stuff. Who knows? I'm not saying that Elon Musk was there during Doge to specifically do that, whatever that Palantir, whatever. What I'm saying is Elon Musk was not in the room. Elon Musk is doing his own thing. There's a bunch of crazy lawsuits going on, if you're keeping up with any of that, between Sam Altman and Elon Musk. Who the heck knows? He's doing the same thing, building AI out, building data centers. I mean, all of these people are. They hosted it in the state dining room. They took turns praising the administration's leadership, blah, blah, blah. It says, highlighting major U.S. investments, hundreds of billions in some cases, discussing, followed an AI education session, emphasized practical outcomes. Yeah, and the tone was collaborative, of course. And let's see, and I put, were there any mentions about data centers or plans for future data centers? Yes, data centers were a significant topic September 2025 White House dinner. In the context of powering the AI boom, investments, addressing energy, blah, 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 challenges. Key mentions, let's see, permit. All right, so I think I need to go through this. For example, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg noted that companies are making huge investments to build out data centers and infrastructure to power the next wave of innovation, with Meta alone committing at least $600 billion through 2028. Damn. Energy and power demands, key obstacles, of course. I don't even want to get into that. Permanent government support. Trump pledged to help expedite permits and regulatory hurdles for data center projects and power infrastructure. They align with broader administration efforts, including in 2025 executive actions to accelerate federal permitting for large AI data centers. 100 megawatts. So the discussion at the 2026 dinner helped set the stage for later 2026 initiatives, such as the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. So now that's where they're supposedly going to committed self-generating or securing their own power, because why not, right? They're going to put these data centers in whether we like it or not. I would much rather them make their own power, but again, we're not even there yet. So overall, emphasizing data centers as critical infrastructure for U.S. dominance. Okay. List all executive orders related data centers. So here's the list. Executive Order 14141, Advancing United States Leadership in Artificial Intelligence Infrastructure from January 14, 2025. And this is to accelerate the development of AI infrastructure, including data centers and co-located clean energy facilities on federal lands. So there you go. You saw this in what we just saw, but that was a big push. It was directed Departments of Defense and Energy to identify and lease suitable federal land sites. Well, for frontier AI data centers, they've been putting it on in counties, rural counties all over the place. So targeting construction by the end of 2027. So that's not even coming up yet. So we don't even know what that they're actually doing. Key elements: leasing federal lands, clean power, blah, blah, blah. Executive Order 14318, accelerating federal permitted data center infrastructure, which was July 23rd, 2025. So all this stuff we may have missed, but it's been going on behind the surface. These are the things we talk about under the surface that continue to roll. Facilitate the rapid and efficient build out of large-scale data centers and supporting infrastructure. So it's going on for a while. Data center projects, qualifying projects, covered components. Now, this is what these provisions. So it says direct the Secretary of Commerce to launch financial support initiatives, i.e. loans, grants, tax incentives for qualifying projects. Here we are in Georgia talking about tax incentives. So the federal government are making these enticements to all of these areas, basically like promising them the world if they'll put them in. And this is where we got caught with our pants down, because we had all of these deals already made in some of our rural counties where they were taking all of these commissioners and saying, hey, we're going to give you all of these wonderful things, and all you got to do is put data centers. And before you know it, there's 3 or 4 data centers slotted. And then you have your development authorities and all these people carrying this stuff out and doing all the dirty work. And all this is going on under the surface, right? Without you even knowing about it, much less being involved. Streamlines permitting. Identifies brownfield Superfund sites. Directs EPA guidance on expedited reviews. Authorizes data center construction on appropriate federal lands and military. Revokes the prior Biden era EO 14141, which I don't know about that. Focus on national security, economic dominance, reducing regulatory barriers. It's issued alongside the White House America's AI Action Plan, which emphasizes rapid data center and energy infrastructure expansion. Other related executive orders: 14179, removing barriers to American leadership in artificial intelligence. Broad deregulatory AI policy that supports infrastructure development by removing prior barriers. December 2025 EO, ensuring a national policy framework for artificial intelligence. So, I mean, tons of this stuff. Various energy nuclear EOs deploying advanced nuclear reactors, which we just found out a week ago that they're going to build their first fusion reactor, I believe, in Washington, D.C., unleashing American energy, blah, 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 which we should not even be paying for energy. There's so many patents that have been hidden from the public. But again, I believe when Trump came back in power, he was going to release all that stuff. And now, like, we're giving it to data centers. So there are no standard EOs appear for exclusively data centers. Blah, blah, blah. How do these executive orders conflict with counties and states? So the executive orders, let's see, they create limited direct legal conflicts with states and counties as they focus on federal actions and explicitly preserve significant state local authority, which is great. However, they generate practical, political, and indirect tensions through a strong federal push for rapid AI data center expansion versus local concerns over impact. So there you have it. Again, the states ultimately decide, but the federal government is pushing these things so hard. That's where you see the state of Georgia coming out, well, we've got the 10 best rural counties, blah, 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 because they're trying to push and incentivize these data centers wherever they want. Limited direct preemption, accelerating federal permitting, streamlines federal permitting, environmental reviews. Does not override state zoning, thank God, not yet. Land use laws, utility regulating water rights, and most state environmental permitting. A project can clear federal hurdles, but still face locals and state blocks. Thank God for that. Ensuring a national policy framework directs preparation of legislation to preempt conflicting AI laws. However, it includes explicit carve-outs for state laws on AI, compute, and data center infrastructure. I mean, just tons and tons of stuff. So there's more tension and indirect conflict. And for lack of time, I won't go through all of this. Okay, so what countries outside of the U.S. have pledged money and support for AI or the data centers primarily? Several countries. This covers the Middle East, Asia, Europe, others. And I'll tell you why I get to that question, because let me rephrase it. How many of these countries have pledged support to the U.S. for such things? How many are investing in America? The United Arab Emirates, 500 billion. Japan. So you remember SoftBank, right? When Donald Trump come out was joking they were going to do like $100 billion. He's like, you ought to do $200 billion. Well, Japan SoftBank is a lead partner, major financial backer in Project Stargate, committing to substantial capital U.S.-based AI data centers. So that infrastructure they're building, they're talking about all this money that's flowing in, was all about data centers and all about. So yeah, the construction industry making money off of this, but like this is not creating like new jobs. It's not creating like things that are built on the U.S. soil, like manufacturing things. Like this is all for the data centers. I didn't know that whenever SoftBank released, but that's what they were talking about. They just never said the dirty word data centers, right? So Project Stargate. So there you go. Saudi Arabia, context and scale. There's a bunch of that stuff. Tell me more about Project Stargate. Project Stargate, also known as Stargate LLC or the Stargate, is a massive private sector AI infrastructure initiative announced January 21st, 25 at the White House by President Donald Trump alongside leaders from OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle. It aims to build large-scale data centers and supporting power infrastructure across the United States to power next-generation AI. Massive private sector AI infrastructure. Up to $500 billion over 4 years. Yada, 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 equity, debt, mobilized capital for data centers, blah, blah, blah. The whole thing has been set up for this stuff. Compute goal targeting 10 plus gigawatts. I mean, massive amounts of power, guys. And we have no infrastructure built for this. And it says addressing the explosive demand for compute. Yeah, okay, whatever. Anyway, you can keep going down here. Progress in sites, Flagship, Abilene, Texas. Let's see, NVIDIA GPUs, additional expands in Shackelford, Milliam counties, New Mexico, Ohio, Midwest, Michigan, Wisconsin, and more partnership with Oracle, blah, 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 Vantage data centers, all this crazy. I mean, we could go in all day long. The focus remains on U.S. infrastructure, heavy emphasis on co-located or dedicated power, gas, nuclear, renewables, batteries, avoid straining grids. They're just going to throw everything at the wall. Framed as a public-private effort to outpace global competitors, especially China in AI. Anyway, tens of thousands of construction, operation jobs, plus broader supply chain benefits. We'll see about that. Power procurement. I mean, so it's expanded faster than the initial timelines of some areas. New sites announced throughout 2025. This is obviously what's going on in Georgia as well. Dedicated AI infrastructure rather than general cloud data centers if you want. Okay. So I know that was a lot. I'm trying to keep this under right at an hour. So again, whatever you think about this stuff, I wanted to kind of show you how this has been going on for a long time. I mean, it's been going on for years in other states. They've laid the groundwork. You look at Virginia, but, our Governor Brian Kemp said that he wanted Georgia to be the #1 state of doing data centers. And I think right now and I'm not going to look it up, but we're at least like number 6 now. Like they were overflowing everywhere around here. And it's important that we fight against these data centers. It's important that if you don't want one in the area, you shouldn't have one in your area. Now, I know that several counties now are doing moratoriums in all kinds of states. Why? Because we have been completely left out of this conversation, okay? Donald Trump probably on several occasions forgot to mention the fact that this is all boiling around data centers. But this is the future push. Never mind, fixing infrastructure or, towns, roads, bridges, all this stuff. Like the push is artificial intelligence. And you have to understand artificial intelligence. You get something that much smarter than the average human. Well, they don't need the average human anymore. And we've all heard the stories about Elon Musk and the humanoid robots in China. This is also global. It's happening everywhere. It's inevitable that we are in this technocratic revolution. But again, if you don't think, or if you think that we're going to be safe just because like Donald Trump's in the White House, I think there's been more than enough to show that Donald Trump has no control over this. This administration has been kind of set up and centered around this AI revolution. And he has been given the task of going off and playing in the Middle East again, because that is going to be his legacy when we're this close to all of this crap taking us over. And then we talk about 15-minute cities. We talk about the takeover. You will own enough to be happy. Well, this has been a plan in place for a long, long time, and all of the key players are right there at the top, involved. And it's just something you need to know. Situational awareness. What are we going to do? What are we going to do as a species? What are we going to do as the low-hanging fruit, the peasants that live in this world? Are we going to allow artificial intelligence to take us over while the top tech oligarchs of the world get to have their breakaway civilization? What kind of world are we building? And again, I'll say this. I didn't ask for AI. I didn't ask for ChatGPT or Grok or anything like that. So use it. Use it to the best of your ability. Ask it questions. Get to understand what is going on around you, because this is alarming and we're living through it as we speak. We have no idea really what's coming, but we've been studying things like Agenda 2030 for years. Well, we look back on COVID. It was a complete psyop that happened in the entire world. We're all test subjects here. We're the guinea pigs in this social experiment. And what are we going to do on the other side of this? We're going to come out on the other side. So that's really all I got for you tonight. Again, just situational awareness. Be prepared, because we're living through whatever is coming at us, and we all need to be prepared. And this is not a Republican and Democrat thing. This is not a crap on Trump thing. This is none of that. You need to know, for years we've been talking about all of the back and forth, the division and the red and the blue and all this. What has been slow crawling beneath the surface this whole time? It's been the technocratic revolution, the transhumanism, or artificial intelligence, sentient technology. And it's here, folks, and they're trying to mow down your backyard and put it right in your backyard. So anyway, that's all I got. You guys be cool. We'll see you later.